afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another session on women in construction. Today, we are joined by Rachel Sales, Senior Director of Credit for SRS Distribution. Thanks for joining us today, Rachel.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, we can just start it right off. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your career journey and how you got to where you are?
My career started in roofing in 2005. I was newly divorced and was looking to go back to work. And I took a position at Shelter Distribution in McKinney, Texas. And they had recently been bought out by Beacon Roofing. And so that's where I started my journey. I continued there as a credit manager and worked my way up to regional and supported multiple different parts of the country. And when I left there in 2019, it was because SRS had approached me about making a change and coming over to them to help them grow their credit department. And I took the opportunity. It was a director position. And so now I am there leading a team of about 25 people. And we cover most everything west of the Mississippi.
25 is a big team.
Yeah, it's big. So that was a big change for me. I went from probably about 10 to about 25 people.
That is a lot. So had you been or taken classes for credit when you first started at Shelter?
No, actually, everything that I learned was either watching people do things that you probably shouldn't do. I learned a lot of what to do. And then there were, but other people that I worked with or under, taught me a lot. There weren't really any classes back then. I mean, NACM did exist, but it wasn't as robust as it is today. So I think that's something that people getting into credit today have an advantage over some of us that have been in it a long time, because nobody goes to school to be a credit manager. It's all into literally. When I applied for the job, it was an accounts receivable position. And I worked in accounts receivable for about 3 months. And then one of the VPs came to me and said, "Hey, do you want to do credit? It pays more." And I'm like, "Sure," because I have 3 kids to support. So yeah, that'd be great. And that's how I moved into it. But yeah, there weren't any formal classes. I just kind of had to learn by doing the job. Mm-hmm. And take notes and remember for the next time that situation came up what I needed to do. So I think people today are definitely at a bigger advantage because there are so many more classes and resources now.
It's funny though. I mean, I've even said it myself, but everybody says you just fall in it. Nobody knows it even exists out there. I mean, it's not a position that you would ever learn about.
No. And every time I get a group of people together and I ask them, how did you get into it? Their response is always, nobody ever picked it. Like in all my years of managing people, different people on my teams and stuff, it was only one guy said that he picked it. And it was because his mom was a credit manager. And so he's the only one that picked it on purpose. Everybody else, it was accidental. So it's kind of funny.
It's funny. My dad apparently was a credit manager way back in his early days too. So I don't know if it's hereditary, but maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
So what does a day-to-day life look like for you? Is it typical, always changing?
I would say the one word that describes my typical day is busy. As you know, we actually had to reschedule this call several times. So
I love flexibility.
Yeah. So I have to, sometimes my day is not my own. It is a lot of supporting my team, answering questions, ongoing training for them, getting them, situations arise where they need assistance because maybe they haven't encountered that before. So a lot of it is just leading my team and preparing them, for what they need to be doing. And a lot of times it's building relationships with the field, building relationships with the branches, traveling out to see customers. And then recently we've been putting together training programs for the different teams, credit teams within SRS. So that has been something else that's that's definitely taken up a lot of my time in the last several months. And then, I have a to-do list, and most of the time 5 things get added to it as soon as I think I'm done. So
I think that's cool. For the training that you're doing, are you going to be teaching those classes for your team?
Yes. So we actually, the other directors and myself are going to take on the training. So we just did the regional credit manager training last week. We're going to do the area credit manager training at the end of March. And the modules are built to where there's technical training, but then there's also leadership training, to help them kind of fine tune their soft skills. Because that's something, a lot of times you get into these roles and you are tasked with building relationships or negotiating or having difficult conversations. And those are things that don't always come easy to some people. And it's something that, it's helpful, we as leaders, showing them, how they can handle those situations. And so I'm going to be teaching some of the modules, and then some of the other directors will be teaching them. And then we also looked into, it's based off the Power of Positive Leadership course with, it has a book for leaders, and then it has a book for teams. So we're doing the books and the videos that tie to that for the soft skills piece.
That's really neat. So how did you learn kind of how to do leadership? I mean, obviously you fell into that too. Did you take any classes or training for that?
I have. SRS has a really, really great in-house program of leadership classes and people that are teaching them. And has been a huge resource for myself and the other directors, and then the regionals and stuff within the company. So I think having that, and then they tie us to LinkedIn courses, and then courses I've taken on my own through NACM and other platforms that have offered them. It's when I see it, I try to sign myself or someone on my team up for them, because you can't get enough, and it's always changing. And I like to hear different people's perspective on leadership, because there's so many different facets to it. And, people have different personalities. And so kind of seeing how different people do leadership, and then taking little bits and pieces from each one of them and kind of making my own style dependent on, who I'm leading on my team.
It would be neat if you could put that all together, like in a webinar or an article or something, just so other people can see the different styles out there. Because like you said, there are a lot of different ways people.
There are. Yeah. We're hoping to get to a point where we can video some of the sessions and then have those available. Not only for our future employees, but if, somebody wanted to put them out, for other people to see it, it could be beneficial for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Anything that you enjoy learning, somebody else out there is gonna.
I heard about all that kind of stuff, though, all that personality and, just, how to get through to people and excite them, to want to do better. I mean, all of that is very interesting to me.
Definitely. And you get to see the kind of the work ethics that are out there as well.
For sure.
So on that topic, what skills have you found that are essential either for just a credit manager position or in your role as director?
Sure. I think having a positive attitude is one of the biggest things that's going to be essential in credit, because I think a lot of what we do sometimes can be very negative based. We try to stay on the positive side of things, but ultimately as a credit manager, you will have to make difficult phone calls to people, call for money, deal with situations of customers who aren't paying. And so I think keeping a positive attitude about that and a positive attitude about your role within the organization is important. I think effective communication is another key personality trait that people need to work on. I think communication is huge, not only with your team, but if you're dealing with customers, or you're dealing with salespeople or the branch managers, they need to understand where you're coming from, and you need to be able to articulate it. A lot of times their frustration comes from not understanding our side of things. And I think some of our frustration comes from not understanding their side. So both sides being able to communicate is very, very important. Because it's tough enough sometimes if we're battling with the customer. We don't want to battle with our internal people too. We want to try to be a united front and understand both sides of it. And then for me personally, I mean, I would say I'm probably very competitive. And I also am determined. I mean, I don't stop. Like if something is a struggle or is difficult, it pushes me even harder. I'm going to accomplish it because I'm one of those people like that you tell me I can't, then I'm going to figure out how I can. Like, that's how that's going to go.
You can get blood from a turnip.
Maybe. And then my ability to read people and situations has benefited me greatly in my position. I think I have a natural ability for that. And I think there's a lot of other people out there too, if you listen and you fine tune that. But you got to be able, when you're a leader, and even if you're not a leader, but you're working with multiple branches, right? Every personality is different. So being able to read those people and understand the situation puts you at a better advantage.
Definitely. Let's see. You kind of already said this, but what do you think is the main challenge that you face in your position, either internally or just with customers?
I think internally, it's probably keeping everybody moving in the same direction. With constant change, it can be challenging, and it can wear people down.
Mm-hmm.
They get frustrated, they get burned out. So, like I said before, we deal with tough conversations. Some days, are better than others. And we just have to stay positive and just keep moving forward. I mean, that's all we can do. Our company per se is growing at a phenomenal rate. And so it's challenging for the team to be able to keep up with that pace if they get tired. And so for me and my role, I have to keep them motivated, and I have to keep showing them like, it's going to be okay. You can do this. It's be fine. You have to adjust to the pace. So, when they get discouraged, it's my job to try to find a way to minimize that and just keep them focused and motivated.
It's interesting. The more interviews that I do for, for the women in construction, you all talk about the personality traits. It's never, having to dot the I's and cross the T's or take an accounting course, or you have to be able to add or anything like that. It's always personality.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that everybody that's on your team has that competitive feeling as well?
No, I would say I have a good mix. I have a good mix of people that are competitive, and I have a good mix of people that they're okay with where they're at, and they want to stay right there, and that's fine, because you need those people too. You can't, if you have two spots, right, and like all your people are fighting for the same two spots to move up, like then there's going to be 6 people that are completely discouraged. So you need people that are okay with where they're at, and you want people that want to move up. And sometimes those can change. There can be people who want to move up and then they change their minds, and there's people who were fine where they were and now they've changed their mind too. So I think you need both. I think you need a good mix to make the team work.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a plan. Are you a member of any professional groups or associations?
I am. I'm actually serving my 4th year on the board for National Women in Roofing for the DFW Council.
Oh, nice.
I was on the membership team for that. And then 3 years ago, they moved me to treasurer. So I am the treasurer for the DFW Council. And that's been great. COVID kind of put our chapter had just gotten started maybe a year before COVID. So that kind of messed it up a little bit. We've had a little bit of dip in our membership, but we're hoping to get that back up. We're starting to be able to get back out again. We're actually doing in the Dallas area, we're going to do a charity ball at the end of March. And so
nice.
that might bring out some more join us. We've got some new people on the board, so that's going to probably invigorate us and put a new push on things for some new people joining. Some of the other members who'd been on the council have stepped down just for, things going on in their careers, and they just couldn't continue. But it looks like it's going to be a pretty good year. So we're excited about that. I'm also part of the SRS has an internal women's leadership forum. So I'm part of that group. And then I was on the credit advisory board for Levelset for the last year. So
we do love having you.
Yes, it's been great. I've loved contributing and being part of that. I love to see the growth and and make a contribution that's going to benefit other people.
I'll just go ahead and ask you, what would you say to women that are kind of coming up into the construction industry, having to deal with all the different situations that come up, but they do have access to those other associations and stuff like that?
I would say be as involved as possible into it with some of those outside organizations, because they bring a lot of support and a lot of networking. You sometimes feel, I think, as a woman in construction, I think it's gotten better, way better in the 17 years that I've been doing it. But there's still a lot of times where, people don't see women, as leaders in construction. And I think we're the future of construction as more and more women get pulled towards that. And I think that's great. I think it's wonderful for us. And I think it's wonderful for the industry. I think the biggest hiccup is people who, don't think that we can handle it, or we certainly can't know as much as, maybe men would know, but we do. And I think proving that. And so I think there's a lot of men out there that are complete allies for us, and we just have to break down that stereotype. Mm-hmm. And I think, that's the best thing is with some of these groups is to get involved and have that support system and the networking, and just to keep going. Don't let them, don't let anyone, tell you that you can't do it, because you can. You absolutely can. There's nothing standing in our way.
You said that you think women are pulled to the industry and to the position. What do you think pulls them over?
I think the opportunity. I think the fact that, it's just different. And I think some people are looking for something different. And I think that, things going on just in the world in general. I mean, construction is continuing to happen. I mean, the world is growing no matter where you are for the most part. So construction is something, it's an industry that's not going away. It's not tapped out. It's not capped out, and I think the potential is unlimited. And I think that's what interests a lot of people and why they're moving in that direction.
Definitely. Making your way through Shelter, Beacon, and over to SRS, did you have to deal, or do you recall a situation where because you were a woman, you couldn't get something across, or something didn't happen the way it should have?
Yes, obviously, I would be lying. But yes, it did happen to me routinely. I felt unheard before coming to SRS. I would say individual managers before I got to SRS definitely listened to me and knew, that I was vital to the organization. So I don't want to say everybody, but there were other times where people in other positions didn't value my knowledge or my input. And it was frustrating. It was definitely frustrating. When you've done something for so long and you've been successful at it, you want to be heard. You want to have a voice, not just for yourself, but to bring change for others and to make the department better. And so that was frustrating at times when I wasn't getting that voice, that I wasn't getting that acknowledgement or that opportunity to help, derive change that was needed. And that's something with SRS that's been wonderful and eye-opening, is that they've given me that opportunity. And it wasn't just lip service. There are things that, we've come up with and implemented, and I've been able to make a difference for the teams and for the teams that are coming up, through the organization now and for the company. So I do like that. And it is exciting.
So for somebody that's in that position where they're not being heard, they can't get their point across, do you have any advice on how you kind of overcame that?
You just don't ever shut up. You just have to, You can't. I mean, for me, but that's my personality. Like, I'm just not going to stop. Like, I'm going to keep pushing to be heard. And it could make the difference. I think if you stop trying, then you'll never know. You'll never know if you could have made a difference. And if you give up on, using your voice, then you'll never know what could have happened. And that to me was not something I was willing to sacrifice. I'm just going to keep pushing. Because even if the people up top aren't listening, there's probably people around you. You may inspire someone else to speak up. And then if someone else is speaking up with you, then there's two of you speaking up, and maybe then there's three, and maybe then there's four. And you're being an example for other people that may not feel confident, and you may be able to help build their confidence to where they're going to speak up.
So how do you think the construction industry has changed or will change, say, within the next year or two? And how do you think you'll respond to that?
Well, I think we've seen a lot of changes. COVID definitely made a change in the industry for sure. Mm-hmm. We went from working in the office to working remote. There's a lot of people that, within the construction industry who were laid off or furloughed, and they're trying to find their way back. It's slowed down some construction projects, and others weren't affected. For us, definitely in roofing, we've had issues with material shortages. Mm-hmm. So the material shortages have been huge for us right now for our customers. And so that has changed the landscape of the way, we're doing business and the balances on the accounts and what's happening. We have customers, unfortunately, that have, gotten ill and haven't been able to work. So it's been different, but the construction boom isn't stopping. Things are still, you look around Dallas, it's still growing. So the material shortages will catch up at some point and it'll get back on track. I think then the challenge will be finding the staff to support the growth that we have. That's been more challenging. People aren't looking for jobs in credit because they don't know it exists. So trying to, I know that our recruiting team goes out to colleges specifically now for us. They were already going a lot of times to go find branch manager candidates and stuff like that. But we're actually having them go to these colleges and look for credit manager candidates, people who, might be a fit for that role. And so that's exciting. We have a financial services MIT program. So we have 2 guys that have gone through that so far. And the recruiters are going out next week to several different colleges, and they're going to be recruiting for at least 2 more positions within credit for MIT. So that's exciting and new. And we're kind of blazing the trail on that. I don't think any of our competition is doing that. So that's something new that we have. And hopefully that's going to be a great way for us to find some new talent that's just not been noticed before.
I think that is awesome. And if you're ever looking for a partner on that, I would love to partner up on that. We've always wondered, how do you get into the schools? How do you let people know that the position exists?
Yeah.
Most people look at construction and they picture holding a sign on the side of the road or project management and stuff like that. They never get to the credit side. Yeah. So it is neat that you guys do that.
Yeah. We're excited.
So for your remote, when y'all had to go remote, were you guys ready for that? Or did you have to purchase some new software or make some different changes?
Not at all. I mean, they shut down the office, and the people who were in the office, I mean, we came in on a Monday. The management team was notified late Monday afternoon to have everybody come to the office on Tuesday, but that they would be returned to home on Tuesday. But the goal was bring them into work, and they were to take their equipment that was sitting on their desk home with them. And so because SRS was large enough, we did have, we had a network as far as remote, logging in remotely and, I can't think of it off the top of my head what that's called. But anyway, we were able to do that, but they definitely had to make infrastructure changes because we had way more people now logging in from home. And it had to be secure. So they had to beef up, the security piece of it. and we had to start using Zoom. I mean, we've kind of transitioned to Teams now, but Zoom became huge. Like, we were having Zoom meetings weekly to keep everybody in touch with everybody else, which was, different. And it wasn't the same as seeing somebody in person, but we did a Zoom game afternoon. Like, I took the last 30 minutes of the day and we all got on Zoom and we just kind of went around and talked about where we want to go on vacation when we got unlocked up.
Still working on that.
And then we did a few Zoom happy hours to try to, just to keep people engaged and to keep people from feeling like they were stuck at home alone. But it was interesting because I'd only been at SRS for 6 months when that happened. So I was still in the process of building a team. And so it was challenging, but we got through it. And people now most of the people on my team are working more of a hybrid schedule. So they go in the office a couple days a week and then they're at home usually Mondays and Fridays. And then we're in the office Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So, and then there's benefits to that. They get to see each other. They learn from each other. There's some people that just aren't productive at home, and they need that office environment to kind of keep them, grounded and moving through the day like they need to be. So everybody has, takes it a little bit different, but SRS was really great as far as offering, the support and the equipment to be able to do it and to do it the right way. So we were thankful for that.
Do you think you'll stay the hybrid way for a while?
I think so. I think it's difficult to tell people you have to come to the office when they spent a year and a half at home working and were effective at it.
Yeah.
Very difficult to convince them that they have to be in the office to be effective. Yeah. So, and there's just so many different things. People going on with their own lives. Like, I think some parents turn to homeschooling, and there has to be, and those are things, not anybody on my team, but I know some of the other teams, are struggling with that, or they have, even up until like a month ago, schools were still closing, and you had to be flexible for that. So I think it showed us that we don't always have to be in the office to get our work done, and that we can be just as successful and reach our goals working remote. It makes it easier for those of us who need to travel and do things. We can be away and still know that, we can still get stuff done. So
I think it was an eye opener for a lot of businesses to see that people actually did do their work from home. Like you said, some people don't, but I think the majority take advantage of it. I mean, they want to stay home, so they're going to do their job the way they're supposed to.
Exactly. Yep. And there's a few that won't, but then you manage the few. You don't,
right.
Masses have to adhere because the few won't. I mean, that's my take on it, at least. But
it's a good take, because I don't think you should punish the ones that are doing it right just because a couple aren't,
Yeah, exactly. I hear you.
Well, let's get a little personal. If you were able to be anything you wanted other than what you currently are, what would it be?
Growing up, I wanted to be a country singer. I thought I would be wonderful.
Yay.
I thought I would be great. I'd be living in Nashville, just singing my heart. So when I went to Nashville a couple of years ago for IRE, and we were at one of those bars, there was a female band, and I was in the front row, and I was singing every song, and they were like, "Get on up here, girl!" And so
did you?
I did. I got up there, and I was so excited. I lived out my one song.
That is awesome. Do you have video of it?
Oh, no. I don't know. Someone might have a video of it, but I don't have a video of it.
That would be fun to see. That's brave, though, to get up there and do that.
It was fun.
That's good. What are 3 words that your friends would use to describe you?
I think they would describe me as passionate, very passionate about my career, but I'm also passionate about a lot of things. I'm very passionate. So they know that about me. And I think that goes into, I'm very caring. I think they would be another word. And I think there's a silly side to me too. I mean, I got up on stage singing them.
That's right. I think that's brave.
Yeah, brave. That would be, yeah. I mean, they might say brave, but my closest friends probably, I'm a big mix. I can be really passionate and I can be really silly. So,
well, I can't wait to get to an event with you so I can see the silly side.
I know. Silly side.
Actually, all three of those are great for the leadership role that you're in. I think that really helps out for that. What do you like to do outside of work?
Outside of work, I spend most of my time with my husband and my family, and we do a lot of RVing or travel. My husband and I like to go on cruises. We're actually going to go on one next week, towards the end of the week.
Wow.
So I'm about that. We had so many booked before COVID, and then they all just kept rebooking. So then I ended up with 3 in a 12-month period. So may seem like a lot of them, but we went on one in December, and then we're going to go on one next week, and then we have another one in November. So we're excited about that. We like to see different places. That's fun. And then we just hang out at the lake or the pool. We're water people. So that's another one of our pastimes. But most of the time we're just together, spending time together. The Dominican was just very peaceful and very relaxing. So it was beautiful, beautiful.
Good to know. So what's next for you in your career? Think you'll stay there till you retire or get out there and do some public speaking or?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of growth opportunity within SRS. They're growing. And so I think there's a lot ahead for them as a company. And I would love to be here. I'd love to grow the credit department. I think that's exciting to me, mentoring to others, leading others, showing them what I've learned in my 17 years and instilling that knowledge, onto people just coming into the craft. It is a craft. I mean, it's so many different things. It's black and white and gray and lots of gray. And, it's so many, if it's this, if it's that, there's just so many aspects of it. And that's exciting to me to teach someone that. So, I think that's in my future. And I mean, if I'm being honest, I would love to be the first female chief credit officer at SRS.
That's a nice goal.
That would be exciting, but we'll see.
I want to thank you again. I know, like you said, you were busy. Thank you so much for doing this with us. We are very excited to have you be one of the featured women for our Women in Construction Week, which starts on Monday.